Welcome to another episode of Life Experiences. I'm your host, William Pelarenos. We are here at the WRMN 1410 AM studios in lovely downtown Elgin. We are transmitting live. Our phone lines are open at
847-931-1410.
And our YouTube channel is
YouTube.com/WRMN Radio.
Today, I have a very special guest. He took time off from his legal practice to come out with us today. His name is Gary Newland. He is part of the law firm of Newland and Newland. He has offices in Arlington Heights, Chicago, Libertyville, Itasca, Crystal Lake, and Joliet. And Gary is a personal injury attorney. That's been his focus practice of law for over 30 years. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Hey, thank you, Bill, for having me here today. And I'd like to also thank the WRMN staff for everything they've done to make me feel comfortable. And thank you. What questions do you have?
Okay, I want everybody to know our phone lines are open. You could ask Gary a question about any type of personal injury accident. That could be a traffic accident. It could be a slip and fall accident. It could be a work site accident, a workman's comp accident where you're hurt at work, construction accidents. He also handles product liability, and he's also done cases involving food poisoning, amongst many other types of personal injury. So our phone lines are open, but let's stay on topic. There's no Tradio today. Stay on topic with any personal injury questions you have for Gary as we move the conversation along. Okay, Gary, now your firm, of course, you file lawsuits in Cook County, DuPage, Kane County, Lake County, Will County, but you also file in federal court. What's the difference? Where does a personal injury case, go to state court versus federal court?
That's a very good question. And there's cases that involve federal jurisdiction, and they go to federal court. Federal jurisdiction can be, it involves a federal law. Federal jurisdiction can be that the company that you're suing is out of state. For example, when we sue Walmart's headquarters are out of state, so oftentimes Walmart will remove the case to federal court.
So big corporations, because their headquarters are in another state as opposed to the state you were injured in, that's one of the deciding factors going to federal court, right?
Yes, the larger corporations feel they're advantaged in federal court. The judges tend to be a little more conservative, and many lawyers aren't able to litigate in federal court because they don't have the experience. I have a special license that allows me to litigate in federal court, and I'm experienced in litigating in federal court, as well as state court, throughout the entire country.
Let's talk with the most common kind of accidents, which would be traffic accidents, accidents revolving automobiles, motorcycles, maybe bicyclists hit by cars. The important thing to do is get it documented by the police, as well as an ambulance report, and go to a medical facility, get your injuries analyzed, correct?
That's a great point that you bring up. And if you are ever injured, documentation is everything, because the first offense was you weren't injured. It never happened. And so if there's a police report and it's timely made, that goes to support what took place. An ambulance report, an emergency room report, all these go to support the fact that the incident took place when it took place. When someone's food poisoned, it's really important that they contact the health department promptly, because the health department basically does an investigation, and that investigation can be very helpful and also documents the incident. The health department will also check with the Center for Disease Control, and they'll try and track down what made you sick, what food product made you sick, because a lot of times it requires a national search to determine where the food came from and what really made you sick. And that's where the health department communicates with the Center for Disease Control. Now, when you're in a store or any business facility, and let's say you're injured because something falls on your head or you fall, incident reports are very important, because then you put the business on notice that you've hurt yourself, and there's documentation that you hurt yourself. And also it puts them in a position where they should save evidence. So they shouldn't be destroying any videos or anything like that of any fall or what took place. So it's important to document things so that your case is preserved.
Yes, you make good points. Just so our listeners understand by what he means by incident reports is, let's say you fall down a target. You go to the security guard or the manager and you tell them, hey, I fell over there in that aisle where the water is or whatever. So they document it in their records. And there's a paper trail. You're starting a paper trail. And so they'll also know which videos to preserve, correct?
Yes. And oftentimes I had a case on trial where they presented videotape footage, and we were able to ascertain at trial it was from the wrong store at the wrong time. And they were insisting that that was of the alleged incident, so therefore the incident didn't take place. Once we were able to establish what we could establish with respect to the video, they were forced to settle the case immediately. Other times we've had instances caught on videotape where it clearly shows that the store should have taken measures to prevent certain injuries. And videotapes are really instrumental in proving liability, especially when you're talking about premises liability. It's not their obligation generally to preserve video unless they know that litigation is going to take place as a result of what took place on the property. So we think it's strongly advisable, if you're not going to hire an attorney immediately, to let whatever business you may have injured yourself at, put them on notice in writing to preserve any video so that no video is destroyed, so that you have the evidence you need to eventually pursue a claim later.
And what we're talking about here, we're not talking about getting lawsuit crazy. We're talking about you've been injured in some type of incident, whether it's a car accident or a slip and fall or in a department store, and you've suffered an injury, maybe a permanent injury. You got to get your medical bills paid. Sometimes there's long-term therapy, such as physical therapy or cortisone shot injections, to get you back to where you were or as close to where you were prior to the accident. And you need your medical bills to be paid, and pain and suffering. You've suffered because it's not your fault. If it is your fault, you're not going to file a lawsuit. You're filing a lawsuit because it's somebody else's negligence. Correct, Gary?
Generally the case. And what's interesting is probably most people contact us because they're missing work or they're having huge medical bills, and they don't want to be stuck with them. And they shouldn't be. The injury wasn't your fault. The insurance company for the party that is at fault should pay you compensation for pain and suffering, medical bills, time off of work, sometimes disfigurement, sometimes loss of vocation. It all depends on the nature and extent of the injury. But it's our job to not only get your medical bills paid, but to also get you compensation for anything else we can get you compensation for, because you have a loss. And what's interesting is the government sees compensation for an injury case is not income. They see it as compensation for what you've lost. Therefore, whatever you recover is not taxed. So you get $1 million in a personal injury case. You're not going to pay any tax on that.
You know, you make a good point there. And another thing I want to talk about is the difference between a personal injury lawsuit versus a workman's comp claim. Because in a workman's comp claim, if I remember, and I was injured on the job back in '92, and your whole body is like, they've got it divided into dollar amounts, correct?
It's so true. Workers' comp was created a little over 100 years ago to protect employers, not to protect the employee. So what employers got together and they said to the governor, we don't want to be brought to court and sued by people that are injured at work. We want cases to go to the Workers' Compensation Commission. So the governor said, fine, we'll create this Workers' Compensation Commission. However, the trade-off is, employers, you're responsible even if it's the employee's fault that they got hurt. So let's say an employee shoots himself by mistake with a nail gun. The employer is still obligated to pay compensation. Now, the benefit of workers' comp to the employers is your compensation is capped. Generally, a workers' compensation case is paid out by a percentage of different body parts. Okay, for example, a pinky has a finite value, a hand has a larger value, an arm has a greater value than a hand. The Workers' Compensation Act defines the body into parts and adds compensation based upon the value of that part multiplied by the amount you make. So if you make half as much as someone else and you both have the same injury, you're going to collect half as much. Work comp is based upon formulas.
Now, you mentioned it was a state act. So workman's comp, the way it's structured, it's only an Illinois issue, correct?
Each state does their workers' comp differently. Most states have adopted workers' comp. In Illinois, the workers' compensation law is definitively designed to protect corporations. It turns out that it does offer certain benefits to the employees. For example, in a personal injury case, you don't get paid while your case is pending. In a workers' compensation case, the employer is required to pay you for your time off. They're required to pay for your medical bills as they're incurred. In a personal injury case, the other side isn't required to pay your medical bills as the bills are incurred. So there are some nice aspects to a workers' compensation case versus a personal injury case, but ultimately the compensation is generally much less than it would be if it was a personal injury claim. And the reason that is because the employer wants to be protected.
You know, I'm glad you explained it because many people are hurt at their workplaces, whether it be a restaurant or an office building, and they've suffered serious injuries, and those are the injuries that have to be compensated for. Now, another thing I want to get into, and this is almost along the lines of workman's comp, is construction accidents. A lot of construction workers are hurt trying to do a job.
Yes, construction's dangerous. Anytime you're using ladders or up in the air higher than the ground, you're at greater risk of harm. And in a construction accident, oftentimes we have multiple causes of action. So there can be a workers' compensation case as well as a personal injury case. And the workers' comp, there's a formula for them to get reimbursed from the personal injury case. Well, you generally will get more money if we can pursue a workers' compensation case and a personal injury case when injured in a construction accident.
Yes, you know what? Let's take a moment here. We have a caller in the phone.
Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just listening. Very interesting information. I'm learning things I didn't know.
That's why we do these shows, because I hate those words. I didn't know that, and people lose out. They lose out on what they're entitled to. They lose out on money, on medical bill payments, and so on.
That's really very informative. I'm glad you're on the air today. That's important.
Yes, Gary Newland has been practicing along with his law firm, and there's quite a few lawyers. How many lawyers you got in your law firm?
Oh, I lost track. I think there's about 7 or 8 lawyers. I'm partners with my brother, Steve Newland. We started the firm together. And then in the personal injury and the workers' comp arena, we have 3 other attorneys. There's Mary Pat Donahue, there's Aaron Adamski, and then there's Veroli Calderon.
So you got a full crew working for you. So if you have an injury, Gary Newland's the guy to reach out to, and he's got offices all over the place. Did you have a question?
No, I'm just listening in and found it very informative. Very informative. Just wanted to encourage you to keep doing programming like this.
Yes, we try. If you listen to my show, I've had quite a few attorneys on, immigration attorneys at the beginning of the year with all these immigration issues. I had a family lawyer and divorce attorney here on St. Valentine's Day of all days.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. No, it's good. We did the flip side of the flower day. And now I brought Gary because I knew a lady. She fell on some dilapidated concrete outside of school. She injured her ankle. She did not immediately go to hospital. She had witnesses to this. She had photographs. and she had a hard time getting a law firm to represent her because there was a big gap between the injury and going to the hospital. There was a 5-6 hour gap. And also there's another state statute that says if you're injured on public school property, the public schools had to be aware of it prior to the incidents or along those lines. Is that correct, Gary?
You know, that's a very important issue that you just brought up. So schools are considered public entities, just like perhaps, you know, you want to say the city of Chicago or the city of Elgin, Metra. They're public entities, and they have what's called tort immunity. What that means is they have additional protections in the law. So if you were to, let's say, fall at Walmart, okay, they're subject to negligence, which means they have a duty to be safe, okay? And if they breach that duty, they can owe you for your injury. With respect to public entities, we have to prove that their conduct was wanton and willful to get you compensation. It's a much higher burden. And that's to protect these public entities so they are not sued. And because when they get sued, they're paying out on tax dollars. So the legislature said, we're going to protect these public entities, even if it means people are going to get hurt and they're not going to get compensated. So it's very, very important, even more so when you're talking about a public entity, to make sure things are documented well. And it's very, very important that you contact an attorney immediately, because the issues of proving wanton and willful misconduct are very challenging.
Yes, and she waited a long time, and at the end of the day, when this was all over, after 6 months of fighting back and forth, she didn't get her medical bills paid. She had to go through Medicare, and the rest of it came out of her pocket, and the whole incident was not her fault. And I felt so bad for this woman, but she really missed the boat. She didn't properly document it. She didn't call an ambulance. She didn't get immediate medical treatment. She decided to take her grandkids home. And then if you're in pain, that's your body telling you, I've been hurt. If you're in pain, that's a clue. Call an ambulance. People are so scared of calling an ambulance and the police. They call for nonsense, but you're injured. Call 911 is a free call.
You know, Bill, one other point too, when I mentioned tort immunity for municipal bodies, governmental bodies, there's a 1-year statute of limitations. Typically in Illinois, it's a 2-year statute, but when you're talking about the government, it's only a 1-year statute.
So you know there's a time frame there, but if you're injured, make sure you get proper documentation by the police or the fire department or the ambulance. Make sure you go and get medical treatment that's documenting your injuries, because you got to get your medical bills paid. You don't want to fall into that trap that this poor woman fell into. And then contact Gary or another personal injury attorney, whoever you want. I highly recommend Gary here. He's been doing it for 30 years. See what they have to say. And initial consultations are free, right?
They are.
So it costs you nothing to talk to Gary Newland. And he's got offices all over the place. I had an injury 5 years ago, and that's how I met Gary. We went to the Arlington Heights office, big parking lot, handicap parking in front. It was 15, 20 minutes from here. And but he's also got offices in Libertyville, Itasca, Crystal Lake, and Joliet, correct?
That's correct.
As well as downtown Chicago. So, I mean, they're all over the place. You can't say, I couldn't get there.
Yeah. And we practice throughout the state and the country as well. We take cases from other states, and we come in under something called pro hoc vice, which means we get a special permission to come in and litigate in that particular state because of our skill and expertise.
Wow. Good to know. Well, thank you so much for answering those questions.
Thank you for calling in, and keep on listening. We're here live every Friday on Life Experiences, and we try to get a different guest, or I run solo, and that's the name of the game with us on Fridays. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
We got another caller.
We have another caller.
Yep.
Kick it.
Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I have a quick question. I see that Mr. Newland is talking about injury cases, and I was wondering, what is the delineation between doing a sudden injury that just happened at work versus something that is slower, such as a carpal tunnel?
That's an excellent question. In workers' comp, most injuries are a sudden specific injury. You were lifting something and you tore something in your shoulder or your back, and that's your classic workers' compensation case. There's something else called repetitive trauma, and that can happen from typing or use of the hand, something that generally involves torque with your hand, twisting. And when you have a repetitive trauma, that's something that happens over time, and it's extremely important in those types of cases that there be a doctor to indicate that that type of injury is related to work, because it doesn't have to be. There's a lot of ways someone can get carpal tunnel, and work is one method by which someone can get it, but it has to have a medical opinion to support the fact that it's work related to get compensation for such a condition as a repetitive trauma.
Did you understand?
Thank you for that information.
All right, listen, I want to get this out before we go to commercial break. Gary, your website is newlandlaw.com, correct?
That's correct.
You can look up Gary and his law firm. They got the history there. It's Newland Law, NEWLANDLAW.com, and their phone number is 847-797-8000. Very easy to remember, 847-797-8000. Stay with us. We got a few more callers online. We're going to go to a quick commercial break.
We got about a minute.
We got about a minute, huh, Matthew? Well, I want to get this out. So, Gary, as you said, if they call and they got some kind of questions, your initial consultation is free with them, right?
That's correct. And if they call while we're on the radio, they will be happy to answer their questions, and they'll have anonymity. They don't have to say who they are or anything.
Yes, but the most important thing, the message we're trying to get out here today, and especially before we go to commercial break, if you're injured, you need documentation. You need either police or fire or ambulance, but definitely medical. If it's in a building, you need an incident report from the staff that runs the building. It's important to get that out. If you're in a store and they don't want to make an incident report, Gary gave me the final answer today. Call the police. Let the police come down, and they will document it, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Documentation is so important because, believe it or not, oftentimes people lie. And the best way to unwrap that is with documentation.
All right, we got 10 seconds?
You have 40 seconds.
Oh, we got good 40 seconds. Okay, we'll go to his website one more time, and then we're going to go to a quick commercial. Actually, we're going to go to 3 minutes of the news, correct? Mm-hmm. 3 minutes of the news, listen to the news, and then come right back with us with any questions you got. We're live till 1 o'clock with Gary Newland from Newland & Newland Law Firm. Check them out at newlandlaw.com. So let's go to break.
With your 1410 WRMN News Flash, I'm Sean Credan. Brought to you by Wendy's. The Naperville Police Department reports responding to nearly 1,400 domestic violence incidents in 2024, with almost 500 of those involving physical contact. Authorities are stressing the importance of awareness and support of survivors of domestic abuse, highlighting available resources in their monthly Focus on Safety initiative, which you can find on their social media. Elgin will mark Flag Day with a ceremony on Friday at 4:30 p.m. The event takes place at Veterans Memorial Park, located behind the Gail Borden Library on South McLean Boulevard. Community members are invited to gather and honor the American flag, reflecting on its history and meaning. Yoga enthusiasts in Naperville are invited to a free yoga session on Saturday, June 14th at the Matrix Club on Route 59. Certified instructor Anu Malhotra will lead a class from 10 a.m. until noon. The event is a collaboration between Mindful Meditation Yoga and the Consulate General of India. With your 1410 WRMN News Flash, I'm Sean Credan.
Working as a dedicated Fidelity advisor, I always ask, what's important to you? I'll look at those priorities and goals alongside your full financial picture to build a comprehensive plan designed to help grow and protect your wealth. With proactive portfolio insights and an eye on taxes, I'm here to help you make the most of your money. I'm Laura Maxwell, and I'm a dedicated Fidelity advisor. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Huge news. Right now at Wendy's, you can get a Son of Baconator for just $3. I don't think you understand this situation. The Son of Baconator is only $3 for a limited time. You know, smoked bacon, rich melted cheese. That Son of Baconator is only $3. Thank you to whoever wished upon that star. For bacon that just won't quit, gotta be Wendy's.
U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii, not valid on a combo or on third-party delivery platforms.
Real estate, be it residential or commercial, is often a person's most significant and priciest asset. Entering into a contract to buy or sell a real estate property is much more than just filling in the missing blanks on the printed contract. It's wise to hire a lawyer to prepare or review the offer to purchase real estate and take full advantage of his legal expertise. With Mark Sheblo, you will gain an attorney with over 26 years of legal practice and one who has helped thousands of clients to buy or sell their homes or investment property. We will safeguard your interests and might be able to even negotiate a better bargain than a client without proper legal counsel ever could. Oftentimes, a prospective buyer will submit an offer without first consulting an attorney, not realizing that once the offer is accepted by the seller, it becomes a binding contract. And the terms of that contract are not easy to be changed afterwards. Likewise, as a seller, you too will benefit from first consulting an attorney before signing. Feel free to call us for consultation at the law offices of Mark Sheblo at 773-775-5050. Our website is sheblolawoffice.com. Mark Sheblo can be reached 6 days a week at 773-775-5050.
This is Sarah Silver with your Fox Valley forecast. This afternoon, mostly cloudy with scattered rain showers and a high near 75, with temperatures falling to around 73. Tonight, mostly cloudy with scattered rain showers before 1 a.m. and a low around 62. Tomorrow, mostly sunny with a high near 81. Currently, it is 79 and overcast. I'm Sarah Silver on the Talk of the Town, WRMN.
If there's one thing we know about dads, it's that they're not easy to shop for. Enter Kohl's. They've got everything from Nike golf gear to his favorite Levi's jeans. And you can save 20% on other finds like Flex Athleisure and Izod workwear. So if you're not sure what to get dad for Father's Day, you know where to go. Shop Kohl's now. Select styles. Offer ends June 15th. Some exclusions apply. Coupons do not apply to Nike and Levi's. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Welcome back to Life Experience. I'm your host here today, William Pelarenos. And that break went fast. I was still talking about personal injury cases with personal injury attorney Gary Newland from Newland & Newland Law Firm. His website is newlandlaw.com. And as I said before the break, he's got offices in Arlington Heights, Libertyville, Itasca, Crystal Lake, Joliet, and, of course, downtown Chicago. He handles personal injury cases that include, and a topic I wanted to get into besides car accidents, slip and fall, construction. But during the break, we were talking about food poisoning, because about 2003, I suffered a case of food poisoning. And so I'm familiar with what happens. I ate dinner at a quick restaurant that I'll never eat again, one of these fast food joints. It was fried chicken. I was cutting into it, and I saw it was kind of undercooked, but I didn't think nothing about it. Shame on me. So I ate it, and about 9 hours later, about 6:30 in the morning, I started vomiting, heaving really hard. And my wife thought I was having a heart attack. About 7:30, 8 o'clock, she ends up calling my doctor. And if you tell the doctor, hey, I'm looking at this physician's desk book. Remember those, Gary? Those physician's desk. Now people go to WebMD. I think he's having a heart attack. He's vomiting real hard. He's short on breath. What's the doctor going to say? Send him to the hospital. So 4 days in the hospital, what it turns out to be was food poisoning. I got back, I threw that desk manual right out the window. I said, this is why doctors go to 4 years of law school and 4 years of internship. But what I do now, if I'm eating out, I always save the receipt. It's a thing with me. I save all receipts wherever I'm eating. If I'm at home and there's a product from, and you always see this recalls. Recently was a recall on cucumbers. Did you see this?
Yeah, we actually are proceeding against Walmart on that issue.
So if it's stuff you ate at home because you bought it from Walmart or wherever, and it's stuff that was faulty and it's giving you food poisoning, you have it at your house, save those grocery receipts. Am I correct, Gary?
Receipts are always nice to have, and any proof we can get to prove what actually made you sick and where it came from is beneficial. Now, in the area of food poisoning, oftentimes it takes days for someone to have symptoms. For example, with salmonella, it can happen like it happened to you. It sounds like salmonella, or it can happen 72 hours later after you consume the food. So it's very difficult to prove what meal actually made someone sick. With E. coli, sometimes the illness can take over a week to manifest itself. So consequently, receipts are helpful. We look into recalls to see if you ate something that was recalled. We also, the health department documents everything. What they'll do is, if you have two people that got E. coli or salmonella, there's different variances of salmonella, and then they genetically trace it. So what will happen is, the CDC will take all the salmonella cases and do genetic testing to let us know where they started from. And oftentimes, for example, these cucumbers that were sold by Walmart may have been grown on a farm somewhere in Mexico, and that's how they're able to track it down, because the CDC will say people from Arizona, Illinois, Indiana got sick, and these batches came from the specific farm in Mexico. And that's how they're able to protect consumers, because they're able to figure out what made them sick, where it came from, so they can take it out of the chain of commerce to prevent other people from getting ill.
All right, phone lines are still popping, Gary. Go ahead with the next caller.
Hi, welcome to the show.
Oh, hi. Do you do, I may have a referral on a train case. I'm going to give you a call later. Someone is a CTA train, was injured. And is that injury, that tort injury?
Yeah, the CTA is considered a municipality under the law. And consequently, if they're a customer on the CTA, there's a 1-year statute of limitations. So it's extremely important, if they were injured, that they contact an attorney as soon as they reasonably can.
Was it over a year ago, the injury?
No, it was in the last 30 days.
Oh, why don't you give Gary's office a call? Because we don't want to get too specific about an ongoing case over the air. But
Okay.
I'll give you the phone number. You got a pen?
Yes.
Call 847 797 8000.
Very good.
And listen, tell them when you call, tell them you talked to Gary on the radio, Gary Newland, and he told you, am I correct? You're telling her to call your office.
Yeah.
I'm his ventriloquist dummy today here.
Thank you. I have to take another call. Thank you.
Well,
All right,
thank you for calling.
Yes, bus accidents. A lot of people are injured in bus accidents. And I knew a guy in the 80s. It was funny. They used to have those roll-up windows where you push them up with both sides. They had window locks on both sides. The window fell down. It was defective, broke his arm. And he ended up getting compensated for that. But it takes a long time. And it's important to notify an attorney immediately, because they've got to start that litigation. And from what I understand, CTA buses now got cameras on them, correct?
Many of them do. And Bill, the point that you just brought up, when it's the CTA, like you said, it involves litigation. It's not like we call them up and they're reasonable and want to settle. Whenever you're dealing with, generally when you're dealing with the government, you're going to have litigation, because they have special defenses and they want to fight it out. Government is not easier than a private company, that's for sure.
They have lawyers on staff every day that just fight these cases. That's the law firm's daily grind, correct?
That's correct. When we take cases against the CTA, it's the same lawyers over and over again. They know all the different defenses. They know how it all works, and that's the way it's played. And they make us take it to them. They make us fight and earn it, and that's okay. That's their job. So we're happy to earn it.
And you know what? I got to mention that people don't know the procedures. Once you're injured, and 5 years ago I was in a traffic accident that caused a serious injury, and I ended up retaining Gary on that accident, and that's he was referred by another attorney. So, I mean, word of mouth is always good, especially if you do a good job. 5 years ago, I was injured, so I went through this process, and I had not filed a lawsuit since '92. That was a workman's comp claim where I broke my ankle in the job. But so I was unfamiliar. I have not been in the lawsuit system as a plaintiff. So Gary walked me through it. He filed the lawsuit. He filed discovery so he could get all the documents, the reports, the police reports, the ambulance reports. I had to sign off on HIPAA, on the health information from doctors. And then Gary went forward, and next step is depositions. Am I correct?
Yeah, after we answer written discovery, then we generally have depositions scheduled. And oftentimes the defense will do deposition of our client, which is almost every time. And then they'll want to do depositions of our physicians, just as we want to do depositions of the defendant and any witnesses as well.
And that's important because if a case takes a long time from date of filing lawsuit to trial, anything can happen to people. I remember as a policeman, I had to testify on an accident I handled, and the witness had died. In the interim, the witness to the accident had died, and I had to testify to my documentation of what that witness told me, even though it was hearsay, but I was an impartial party, and that's why it's good to get police reports. Am I right?
It's true. It's very good to get police reports. And oftentimes there's experts we have to hire that will help us prove our case. Sometimes the doctors are unwilling to assert an opinion as to whether something is related to the injury. And other times we need experts when it's accident reconstruction. It's much like what Bill is an expert as well when it comes to DUI cases. And sometimes you need an expert to explain things to the jury so that they can better understand what the real facts are. And so experts are something we heavily rely upon in my business.
So depositions, if you're not familiar, they're statements that you give under oath, truthfully, all parties involved in the accident. Maybe it's a car accident, so the person that hits you, maybe their passenger, maybe your passenger, and then, of course, the doctors come on, and doctors give depositions. And a lot of doctors now do video depositions, right, Gary?
Yeah, it's very common for us to do video deps of doctors and other experts in cases at the current time. Sometimes we want to do them live. Oftentimes it depends on the credibility of the doctor. Sometimes it has to do with time management. Sometimes, we want the video dep recorded because we can then use the video recording against the doctor at trial if he's not being honest. So there's a lot of things we want to do. It's very common for the defense to hire doctors that will say injuries aren't related to an accident, even when they obviously are. So it's a very complicated process, and insurance companies have a large amount of money to invest in defending cases. People talk about the trial lawyers, and I've been a trial lawyer for many years, but we don't own the buildings downtown. Those are all owned by insurance companies in downtown Chicago. They control the legislature. They have the resources to do whatever they can to try and, make our cases more challenging. And as a trial lawyer, what we do is that makes us unique, and this is why the insurance companies don't like trial lawyers, is we share information. So when an insurance company relies upon an expert that is just one of those experts that doesn't have any credibility, we as trial lawyers share our information against that expert so that we can take that expert on so that they can't deprive our client of fair compensation. So the trial lawyers, what makes us special in Illinois is we all work together to achieve the goals we need to achieve for ordinary people. We're not into this for insurance companies. We're in this to compensate ordinary people for what they're going through.
And like Gary said in the first half of the broadcast, if you're just joining us, if you've been injured and finally there's a settlement and it's a personal injury case, you broke your foot, you broke a finger, maybe you lost a finger, any type of personal injury case, it's tax-free, the amount that they pay you, correct?
It is tax-free. Unfortunately, I have to pay tax on my compensation, but my clients get their compensation tax-free, and that's true whether it's a personal injury case or a workers' compensation case. It's all tax-free.
I'm glad you mentioned yours. The difference, people ask me, what's the difference between a criminal lawyer and a civil lawyer in a personal injury case? The criminal lawyer, you go in there, you tell him, hey, I've been charged with DUI or whatever. Here's, he'll tell you, okay, it's $7,000. You put down $2,000, he's hired. But a personal injury attorney takes no money up front, correct?
Yeah, I've been paid hourly by some people that want to pay me hourly, but 99% of our cases are on contingency fee, which means we only collect if our clients do. The reality is our clients don't have money to pay us most of the time. The reality is they've been injured. They're missing work. Sometimes it's catastrophic injuries. They've lost a primary bread earner in the family. And so they're not going to have money to pay us. So we do it for a percentage of what we collect. And that percentage is usually, depending on the type of case, can be 20% to 40% of what we collect. And the purpose of that is to make it so this person of ordinary means can proceed against these large corporations and insurance companies. Because otherwise they wouldn't have any ability to proceed against them. They would just be squashed.
So law firms like Newland and Newland, which Gary belongs to, do not take no money up front. They count on a percentage of the settlement that the insurance company or the entity pays. So they have an incentive to win. The better they do for you, the better they do for their firm, because they got to keep the lights on.
Yeah, and I said I head up the personal injury and workers' comp division. My brother Steve heads up what we call our foreclosure defense division, as well as some other divisions. And when it comes to foreclosure defense, we do charge hourly, but our what we've achieved in foreclosure defense is fantastic for people. We're able to get them loan modifications. We've even gotten people out of their mortgage debt. There's been a lot of corruption and fraud in the mortgage industry, and we've learned to take that to the banks as well. We basically at Newland and Newland help regular people against large corporations. That's our job.
So I always mention to people, lawyers are like doctors. They try to help you as much as they can, but you need to reach out to them immediately. Don't wait a year, 2 years. I've seen people wait the day before the 1 year mark was the next day, and she's asking me for a personal injury attorney. I go, where have you been the last 363 days?
Yeah, it's tough. And especially in certain areas like medical malpractice. You know, if someone contacts us, let's say the statute of limitations is 2 years with medical malpractice, but somebody contacts us 2 months before the statute is up, and the statute of limitations is your last chance to file suit. We really can't help them. Even though the statute of limitations is 2 years, they're too complicated for us to take a case and put it together in 2 months to make sure we named all the appropriate parties. So the statute of limitations is the date by which you can't proceed, but your case may not be viable before the statute of limitations is up, just because to properly do it, you really want to put a suit on file and well in advance of the statute of limitations, so you make sure you name all the appropriate parties. It's very common for us to get in a lawsuit and to find out that other parties are additionally at fault or at fault. Sometimes businesses go out of business, and sometimes other parties become more responsible. It's just timeliness is extremely important. We don't like to wait and then get stuck the last minute, not being able to compensate the person because of little notice. It doesn't make us look good as attorneys, and we are concerned about our reputation because we want to do a good job. The insurance companies need to know that when we take a case, we're serious. We're not messing around. And That's why we get more compensation, in my opinion, than other law firms, because they know we're serious. We got our ducks in a row. And when we take a case, we're taking the case to win.
Yes, Gary's a trial attorney. He has other trial attorneys with his law firm. They're looking to go to trial. And in order for you to help your case and help Gary move the case along, you can't procrastinate. Here's another thing I know as a policeman. The police come on scene to your accident or your injury or your case. They have body cameras. Everybody's seen those on TV. Those, by state statutes, only have to be preserved for 90 days. So if you wait 6 months to reach out to an attorney, that body camera is most probably gone, especially if it's a suburban police department. They re-record because it's a maintenance issue. They can't maintain years of body cameras. So it's important to get with an attorney like Gary or whoever you want to choose. Immediately bring the documentation, have them file the subpoenas, or if it's a private business, you send letters to the corporation, right?
We do. We send certified letters, and then once we put them on notice timely, then they're required by law to preserve it, or the destruction of the evidence can be used against them. But as you were saying earlier, there's only certain time frames they need to follow to keep evidence. We recently got hired in an injury case where the client came in within 2 weeks of being injured. We sent out the letter immediately to preserve evidence. They then responded with they only keep the evidence for a week. And so after a week, their machine automatically rewrites over the video footage. And so they're saying they didn't need to preserve it. And that's something we're going to end up battling out in the court process.
Yes, it's important to get those videos in order for you to help your case. You need to help Gary, and you need to immediately get with a personal injury attorney. Don't wait a year to file these because a lot of the evidence is lost. Even if they send out subpoenas and letters, if it's gone, it's gone. Once they're gone, they're gone.
And that brings up a good point, too. You bring up so many good points, Bill. And that is pictures. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, So if you fall in a store and you slipped on milk, take a picture of what's on the ground. Take a picture of the stain on your pants from it getting wet from the fall. Take pictures of the deviation in the sidewalk if that's what caused you to trip. Take pictures of the torn carpet if that's what you fell on. Because if that is altered in some way, it'll be very hard to prove that later. And I know that's not what you're thinking when you're laying there in pain, but it's extremely important that if you can't do it, you have someone go back there and take pictures for you as soon as they can before the evidence is altered.
Yes. Like my phone has 29,000 photographs in it. If I'm injured, and luckily I did this when we had when I was involved in the traffic accident, I took photographs of the cars, my car and the person that hit me, their car. And I blew them up for 8x10. I gave them to Gary's associate, Aaron. They're worth, pictures worth 1,000 words. It's right there for the jury to see. And, it was interesting. I didn't think about this, but you told me when you take a photograph to your cell phone, there's metadata that gives you the date and time it was taken, correct?
That's correct. So a picture taken on your cell phone, there's recorded information that you don't necessarily see that documents the date and time. And that information we can use if there's a dispute as to the date and time of the injury. So it's very, very helpful. Also, and Bill, you and I were talking about this earlier, there's most of the vehicles manufactured now have black boxes in them. We're talking about cars. They have these boxes in them that they call them black boxes like in airplanes. And so when you're in a crash, the black box can record the speed you were traveling, can record whether you had your turning signal on, can record if you slammed on your brakes, and it goes back a certain time period and going to the point of impact. Now, this data is stored for months after an accident, but if we don't act and download that information, and we can download it from the other side's vehicle as well, if we don't do that in a timely fashion, it's automatically lost. So it's extremely important to hire an attorney timely so the evidence can be preserved and the case can be proven.
especially if the cars are totaled, because the insurance company takes the car. Once they total it, say it's a leased car, they'll pay off the lease. If there's monthly payments, they cancel the contract, but they take the car if the car's been totaled. So you want to get that car and that metadata before the insurance company takes it, and before a body shop takes it to repair, correct?
Well, definitely, we want to get all data recorded before things are destroyed. This is extremely important in many accident cases, not all, but generally in most trucking cases, the black box is instrumental because it'll oftentimes show us information that will be very inconsistent to what the driver would be testifying to.
Yes, it's important. So what we're trying to get out here is the important messages for the people. If you've been injured, especially if you feel pain, you got to get medical treatment. You got to get it documented. Take photographs of what caused you the pain. Was it a dilapidated sidewalk? I've been bicycling lately, and I noticed some trees have destroyed these sidewalks, and people in the city are not doing anything to repair. You're going over these lumps. You think you're Evel Knievel, and a bicycle can wipe out. You could have bicycle injuries, of course, motorcycle injuries. Many years ago, I never filed a lawsuit in this one, around 2009. I'm sitting at a red light in my Yukon, and I'm rear-ended by another Yukon. If this guy can't see a 2,000-pound truck, SUV, how is he going to see a motorcycle? And it's very important. And I worry about the average person and their injuries because I don't want you to fall in that rabbit hole that the lady fell with the public school injury. She waited too long to go to the hospital. She should have gone immediately. She was more worried about getting those grandkids home. And she knew she was in great pain. She had to be helped by the car. How much more is there? These are red flags. Am I right, Matthew?
Yes.
Yes. Is it the phone line clicking?
Oh, we got 30 seconds.
We got 30 seconds. Gary Newland, give me your website real quickly.
It's newlandlaw.com.
Newlandlaw.com. Thank you, Gary, for joining us next week right here on Life Experience with William Pelarenos.